I watched my baby girl take what I thought was her last breath in my arms, and the stranger who'd been serving me water said 5 words that still haunt me. "She's dying right in front of you." The restaurant disappeared. The million-dollar view of Seattle's skyline blurred into nothing. Every sound, clinking glasses, fake laughter, Mozart drifting from the grand piano, all of it vanished. There was only my daughter's tiny body going limp in my arms, her cries weakening to desperate whimpers, and this woman's hand gripping my shoulder like a vice. We need to move, right now. But I should start at the beginning. Let me tell you how Sarah Mitchell, 32, broke, betrayed, and barely surviving, ended up in the city's most exclusive restaurant clutching a dying baby while waiting for a man who'd already chosen someone else. Hey friends, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to comment where you are watching from, like, share, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a story. Make sure to watch till the very end because the final twist is something you definitely don't want to miss. So let's continue. 18 days earlier, I made the mistake that would destroy everything I thought I knew. It was a Wednesday morning. Ordinary. Forgettable. The kind of morning where you make coffee and check your phone and don't realize your entire world is about to explode. David's phone was on the bathroom counter, buzzing while he showered. I wasn't the snooping type. Never had been. But the notification preview lit up the screen, and I saw it before I could look away. "Last night changed everything. I love you." C. My coffee mug slipped from my hand. It shattered on the tile floor, brown liquid spreading like blood. I picked up his phone. His passcode was our wedding date, 0614. How sweet, how perfectly, devastatingly ironic. The messages loaded. I started scrolling, and scrolling, and scrolling. 2 years. 2 entire years of another woman. A woman named Claire, who sent good morning texts and photos in lingerie and messages about meeting at hotels I'd never heard of. 2 years of working late and business conferences and networking events that were actually a completely different life. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold the phone. But I kept reading, kept torturing myself, kept searching for the message that would make sense of everything. I found it dated 3 months ago. Claire. I still can't believe you're going to be a father. Are you terrified? David. Completely. But at least with Claire Jr., I'll know for sure she's mine. At least with Claire Jr., I'll know for sure she's mine. The words rearranged themselves in my brain. Wouldn't compute. Know for sure. Meaning he didn't know for sure about Maya, about our 6-month-old daughter, about the baby I'd carried and delivered and loved with every cell in my body. He didn't know if she was his. I was still sitting on the bathroom floor, surrounded by broken ceramic, when David stepped out of the shower, towel around his waist, whistling some song I used to love. He saw me, saw his phone in my lap, saw my face. Sarah. The color drained from his skin. Baby, I can explain. Don't call me baby. My voice came out flat, dead. Don't call me anything. He scrambled for words, said it wasn't what it looked like, said Claire meant nothing, said he was planning to end it. All the greatest hits of every cheater who ever got caught. I let him talk, watched his mouth move, heard sounds coming out. None of it mattered. Finally, I cut him off. What did you mean in the message? At least with Claire Jr., I'll know for sure she's mine. David's face did something complicated. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. It's not... I didn't mean... Do you think Maya is yours? Silence. The most damning silence I'd ever heard. Answer me, David. Do you think you're her father? Of course I do. But you're not sure. More silence. I got pregnant in March, I continued, voice eerily calm. You started sleeping with Claire in January. Were you using protection with me? His face told me everything. Oh God. I started laughing, horrible, broken laughter. You don't know. You literally don't know if you're Maya's father. Sarah, please, get out. Let me explain. Get out of my house. He left, grabbed some clothes and left. And I sat on that bathroom floor until the sun came up, holding my sleeping baby, wondering if anything about my life was real. The next 2.5 weeks were a special kind of hell. David moved in with his brother downtown, hired some fancy lawyer whose retainer cost more than I made in 3 months. Started talking about custody arrangements and visitation schedules. I scraped together $2,000. I didn't have to hire a lawyer who worked out of a strip mall. She was good, but she was honest. Without a paternity test, I had no leverage. Make him take the test, she said. So I did. I demanded it. Begged for it. Screamed about it. David refused. Said it was unnecessary. Said of course Maya was his daughter. Said I was being paranoid and cruel, but he wouldn't take the test. And while we fought through lawyers and text messages and voicemails he never returned, Maya cried. Not normal baby crying. Not the kind that stops when you pick them up or feed them or change them. This was different, constant, desperate, like she was trying to tell me something I couldn't understand. I took her to the pediatrician twice. Dr. Sanders, a kind woman who'd been practicing for 30 years, examined Maya thoroughly both times. Colic, she said with confidence. Some babies just cry more than others. It's frustrating, but it's normal. She'll grow out of it. How long? Dr. Sanders smiled sympathetically. Could be weeks, could be months. Try gas drops, white noise. Keep her upright after feeding. It'll pass. It didn't pass. It got worse. Maya cried for hours at a time. Her little face would turn bright red. Her body would go rigid. She'd scream until her voice went hoarse, then keep screaming in a broken whisper that was somehow more terrifying than the loud wails. I tried everything. Different formulas, different bottles, different holding positions. I walked miles around our apartment complex at 3 a.m, bouncing her, begging her to sleep. Nothing worked. I was running on 90-minute sleep cycles and spite. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. Heavy, slow, aching in places I didn't know could ache. I'd forget basic things. Whether I'd eaten, what day it was, if I'd locked the door. My mom called from Arizona. Honey, you sound terrible. Can David take Maya for a few days? You need rest. I laughed until I cried. David's not answering my calls, Mom. He's too busy with his girlfriend. Then bring her here. I'll help. I can't afford a plane ticket. My mom went quiet. She lived on Social Security. I knew she couldn't help financially. I'm fine, I lied. We're fine. We weren't fine. We were drowning. Then Thursday morning, David texted me. We need to talk about arrangements, custody, support, all of it. Tomorrow night, 6:30? Arrangements like our family was a business deal gone bad. Something inside me snapped. Some last thread of dignity or pride or delusion. I texted back, Le Lumière, 6:30 tomorrow. Be on time. Le Lumière. The most expensive restaurant in Seattle. Reservations required 3 months in advance unless you knew someone. The place where David had proposed to me 4 years ago, back when he still pretended I was worth something. I chose it specifically, cruelly. I wanted him to remember what we'd been. I wanted to walk in there looking strong and successful and unbothered. I wanted him to regret everything. But more than that, I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't falling apart, that I could still function, that I was still the woman who'd graduated top of her class, who'd run her own small marketing firm before Maya was born, who'd had ambitions beyond just surviving each day. Friday came too fast. I spent the morning trying to get Maya to stop crying long enough to shower. She screamed through the whole thing. I could hear her over the water, her wails echoing off the tile. I spent an hour on makeup, trying to hide the dark purple circles under my eyes, trying to make my skin look less grey, trying to look like a woman who had her life together instead of one who'd cried herself to sleep every night for 18 days. My one good dress still fit. Barely. The black sheath I'd bought for David's company Christmas party last year. It was too tight around my stomach now, post-pregnancy weight I couldn't afford to worry about, but worried about anyway. I looked at myself in the mirror. A stranger stared back. Hollow-eyed, desperate, pretending. Maya had been crying since noon. 3.5 hours of non-stop screaming. I'd tried everything twice. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. Just cried and cried and cried. Please, baby girl, I whispered. rocking her. Please, just for 1 hour. Just stop for 1 hour. She didn't stop. She screamed louder. I almost cancelled. Stood there with my phone in my hand, ready to text David that we'd meet somewhere else. Somewhere normal. Somewhere I didn't have to pretend. But pride is a vicious, stupid thing. It makes you do insane stuff when you're already broken. I called a cab, strapped Maya into her carrier, walked out the door like I was walking to my execution. The cab driver looked at Maya, red-faced and wailing, and grimaced. "Tough day?" he asked. "Tough life," I muttered. The drive took 20 minutes. Maya screamed the entire time. I watched the meter climb, $30 I didn't have to spend, while my daughter fell apart in my arms. La Lumiere sat on the top floor of the Columbia Tower, all glass and gold and artificial elegance. The elevator ride up made my ears pop, made Maya scream harder. The hostess, a woman in her 20s with perfect hair and a practiced smile, took one look at us and her expression froze. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Mitchell, 6:30. She tapped her tablet. Her smile got thinner. "I see the reservation is under Mr. Mitchell's name. Is he joining you?" "He's meeting me here." "I see. Well?" She glanced at Maya, who was now screaming loud enough to be heard over the piano music. "Perhaps you'd like to wait at the bar until he arrives." Translation: "Please don't bring that screaming baby into our 5-star dining room." "I'll wait at the table," I said firmly. The hostess's smile could have cut glass. "Of course, right this way." She led us through the restaurant like she was marching toward a war zone. Every person we passed turned to stare. Women in silk, men in custom suits. The kind of people who'd never let their children scream in public because their children were probably raised by nannies who knew secret baby silencing techniques. Our table was in the back corner, isolated, hidden, exactly where you'd put someone you wanted out of sight. "Your server will be right with you," the hostess said, already backing away. I sat down, tried to calm Maya. She was beyond reason now, crying so hard she could barely breathe between wails. Other diners were actively glaring. A man in a suit actually waved the manager over, pointing at our table while whispering urgently. My phone buzzed. "David. Running behind. Traffic on I-5 is a nightmare. Probably 30-40 mins late. Sorry." 30 to 40 minutes, of course he was late. Maya's screams reached a new pitch. Several people actually covered their ears. A woman in pearls said something to her husband, and they both stared at me with undisguised disgust. The manager appeared, 50s, balding, wearing a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. "Ma'am." His voice was quiet, controlled. "I'm terribly sorry, but we've had several complaints. The noise is disturbing other guests. Perhaps you could take the child outside until she calms down." Other guests, not people. Guests. Like they'd paid admission to a show and I was ruining it. "My husband will be here soon," I said, voice cracking. "I understand. But in the meantime..." Maya let out a scream so piercing that the pianist actually stopped mid-song. The entire restaurant went silent. 50 wealthy people turning to stare at the disaster in the corner booth. The poor woman who didn't belong. The crying baby ruining their expensive evening. Tears started streaming down my face. I couldn't stop them. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." I stood up, grabbing my purse with one hand and Maya's carrier with the other. My vision blurred. My hands shook. This was so stupid. Why did I think I could do this? Why did I think I could prove anything to anyone when I couldn't even calm my own daughter? I was 3 steps from the exit when she appeared. A black woman, 50s, maybe older. Grey streaks in her dark hair, pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a server's uniform, black pants, white shirt, black vest. Her name tag said Ruth in simple letters. But it was her eyes that stopped me. They weren't looking at me with pity or judgment or annoyance. They were looking at Maya with something else entirely. Fear. Ruth stepped directly into my path and held up one hand. "Stop," she said quietly. I stopped. Ruth stared at Maya. really stared. Her expression shifted from concerned to alarmed to something close to panic. "How long has she been crying like this?" Ruth's voice was urgent. "Hours today, but really it's been weeks. The doctor said colic. Give her to me. Right now." There was something in Ruth's voice, something that bypassed my brain and went straight to my instincts. I handed Maya over. Ruth took my daughter and immediately started examining her with efficient, practiced movements. She touched Maya's forehead with the back of her hand, felt her neck, pulled down her collar and looked at her chest. Maya's crying changed. Not stopped, but shifted. Got quieter, weaker. Ruth's face went pale. She looked up at me and I saw something in her eyes that made my blood freeze. "She's dying right in front of you." The words didn't make sense, couldn't make sense. "What?" "Your baby is dying. She has a high fever. Feel." Ruth pressed my hand to Maya's forehead. She was burning up. How had I not noticed? "And look at this rash." She pulled Maya's collar down further. Tiny red spots covered her chest. Some were so small I had to squint to see them. But they were there. Everywhere. "This is sepsis," Ruth said, her voice tight with barely controlled fear. "Or meningitis, or something else serious. But this child is fighting an infection and losing badly. Her crying isn't colic. It's pain, severe pain." My legs went weak. The doctor was wrong. Ruth grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. "Listen to me very carefully. If we don't get her to a hospital in the next hour, she will die. Do you understand? She will die." The restaurant swam around me. I can't. "Do you have a car?" "No, I took a cab. My husband was supposed to meet me, but he's running late." "Then I'm driving you." Ruth was already moving, walking toward the back of the restaurant with my daughter in her arms. "Follow me, right now." "You can't just leave." Ruth spun around, and the look on her face silenced me. My daughter died when she was 8 years old because nobody noticed she was sick until it was too late, because everyone thought she was just being dramatic because I waited. Her eyes bored into mine. "I will not watch another child die when I can do something. Now move." Something in her voice, something raw and broken and absolutely certain, made me obey. I followed Ruth through the kitchen. Surprise chefs jumped out of our way. Someone shouted something. Ruth ignored them all. We burst out a back exit into a parking garage. Ruth's car was beat up, an old Civic with a dent in the passenger door and rust along the bottom, but it started on the first try. "Put her in the back seat," Ruth commanded. "Use your coat as a cushion. We don't have time for a car seat." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unbuckle the carrier. Maya's cries had gotten weaker, thinner, like she was running out of strength. "Stay with me, baby," I whispered. "Please stay with me." Ruth drove like a woman possessed, fast but controlled, weaving through Seattle traffic, running yellow lights, taking corners that made me grab the door handle. "Call 911, she said. "Tell them you're bringing in a 6-month-old with a high fever and possible sepsis. Tell them you'll be at Harborview ER in 8 minutes. Use the word sepsis, it'll make them move faster." I fumbled for my phone, dialed with shaking fingers. The dispatcher answered. 911, what's your emergency?" "My baby, she's sick. We're bringing her to the hospital." "How old is the child?" 6 months. She has a high fever and a rash and she won't stop crying." Ruth reached over and took the phone from me. "This is Ruth Carson," she said, her voice sharp and professional. "I'm bringing in a 6-month-old female with a fever of approximately 104, petechial rash on her chest and abdomen, altered mental status, and signs of septic shock. ETA to Harborview ER is 7 minutes. Have a pediatric code team ready." She hung up and handed me back my phone. "How do you know all that?" I whispered. Ruth's jaw was tight. "I've lived this nightmare before. I know exactly what it looks like." We pulled up to the ER entrance. Ruth grabbed Maya and ran inside before I even had my seatbelt off. 6-month-old septic shock, she shouted at the first nurse she saw. Things happened in fast forward. A doctor appeared. Young woman, Indian, with tired eyes and quick hands. She took Maya from Ruth's arms and laid her on a gurney. "Temperature?" someone called out. A nurse stuck a thermometer in Maya's ear. 104.8. Heart rate? 180. Respiratory rate 60. She's tachycardic and tachypneic. Get me an IV, blood cultures, CBC, urinalysis and chest x-ray, and page pediatrics. Now. They wheeled Maya through double doors. She made a weak sound. Not even a cry anymore, just a whimper. I tried to follow, but a nurse stopped me with a gentle hand on my arm. Let them work, Mom. They'll come get you as soon as they can. Then she disappeared through the doors, and I was standing in the waiting room, alone. Except I wasn't alone. Ruth was still there, standing next to me, breathing hard. Her server's uniform was rumpled, her carefully pinned hair coming loose. She's going to be okay, Ruth said quietly. You got her here. That's what matters. I didn't get her here, you did. My voice broke. I thought it was colic. I thought she was just fussy. I almost let her die because I was too stubborn and stupid and... Stop. Ruth grabbed both my shoulders and made me look at her. Listen to me. You brought her to that restaurant. You tried to get help. You've been trying for weeks. You're not stupid. You're exhausted and alone and doing your best. My best almost killed her. No. Your best saved her. Because when I told you she was sick, you believed me. You didn't argue or make excuses. You acted. That's what being a good mother looks like. I couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. Just stood there while tears poured down my face. Ruth pulled me into a hug. Just held me while I fell apart in a hospital waiting room, surrounded by strangers and fluorescent lights and the smell of fear. My daughter's name was Lily, Ruth said quietly. She got sick when she was 7, started with what we thought was the flu, fever, tired, not eating much. But it got worse. By the time we brought her to the hospital, the infection had spread everywhere, sepsis, organ failure. She died 3 days later. Ruth, I'm so sorry. I spent 20 years blaming myself, wondering what I missed, what I could have done differently. And then I realized I can't bring Lily back, but I can make sure no other mother loses her child the way I lost mine. So I pay attention. I look for the signs, and when I see them... She pulled back and looked at me. I don't hesitate, ever. You saved Maya's life. Maybe. But you would have figured it out eventually. You were already worried, already trying to get help. But not soon enough. Soon enough is now, Ruth said firmly. She's alive, she's getting help, that's what matters. My phone rang. David. I answered with a shaking hand. Sarah, what the hell? I'm at the restaurant and they said you left. Maya's in the hospital. My voice sounded hollow, dead. Silence. Then, what? What happened? She's sick. Really sick. We're at Harborview. I'm coming right now. Don't move. He hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand. Your husband? Ruth asked. The man who was supposed to be there, I said bitterly. The man who's always late. Ruth said nothing. Just stayed beside me while we waited. David showed up 25 minutes later. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair a mess. He looked genuinely terrified. Sarah, he rushed over. Where is she? What's happening? They're running tests. They think it's sepsis. All the color drained from David's face. Oh God, is she... They think we got her here in time. Thank God. Then he seemed to notice Ruth for the first time. I'm sorry, who are you? Ruth Carson. I'm the woman who brought your wife and daughter here. David's face showed confusion. I don't understand. She saved Maya's life, I said flatly. While you were stuck in traffic, Ruth recognized that our daughter was dying and drove us here herself. David looked between us, processing. Thank you. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything to me, Ruth said quietly. But you might want to think about saying something to your wife. Before David could respond, the doctor emerged. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell. We both stood up. Ruth stayed seated, giving us space. Maya has a severe urinary tract infection that spread to her kidneys, acute pyelonephritis. The infection triggered an early septic response, which is why she was so sick. We've started IV antibiotics and fluids. Her fever is already starting to come down. The relief was so intense, I thought I might pass out. She's going to be okay? David asked. Yes, but I need you both to understand something. The doctor looked at us seriously. This was very close. Another few hours and we'd be talking about septic shock, possible organ damage, maybe worse. Whoever brought her in when they did probably saved her life. David and I both turned to look at Ruth. She stood up slowly. Can they see her now? Of course. Room 314, down the hall and to the left. Thank you, Doctor. Ruth turned to me. Go be with your baby. You're coming too, I said. Sarah, this is family time. You are family. My voice broke. Please. Ruth's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. We walked down the hallway together. Me, David, and the stranger who'd saved us. Maya was in a small room, hooked up to an IV and monitors. Her little chest rose and fell steadily. Her eyes were closed, but she looked peaceful, not in pain anymore. I collapsed into the chair beside her bed and took her tiny hand. It was cool now, the fever breaking. I'm so sorry, baby girl, I whispered. Mommy didn't know. Mommy should have known. You did know, Ruth said softly. You knew something was wrong. You just needed help seeing it clearly. David stood at the foot of the bed crying, actually crying. I should have been there, he said hoarsely. I should have answered your calls, I should have... But you weren't there, I said, still looking at Maya. Ruth was. A complete stranger cared more about my daughter than her own father did. That's not fair. I looked up at him. Isn't it? I called you 12 times this week, David, 12 times. How many did you answer? He couldn't meet my eyes. Tomorrow, you're taking the paternity test, I continued. No more excuses, no more delays. You take the test, or you have no part in her life. Choose. David opened his mouth, closed it, finally nodded. Ruth touched my shoulder. I should go. Wait. I stood up. I don't even know your phone number. How do I find you again? Ruth smiled sadly. You don't need to find me, Sarah. You just need to remember something. What? When you see someone drowning, you throw them a rope. You don't ask if they deserve it. You don't wonder what you'll get in return. You just throw the rope. She squeezed my hand. That's what I did tonight, and someday you'll do it for someone else. That's how you pay me back. But... Ruth kissed Maya's forehead gently. Take care of that beautiful baby. And take care of yourself. Then she walked out. I wanted to run after her, to get her number, her address, some way to stay connected. But my legs wouldn't move. I just stood there, watching her disappear down the hospital hallway. Who was that woman? David whispered. An angel, I said simply. David took the paternity test the next morning. Results came back 3 days later. He was Maya's biological father. It changed less than I thought it would, because biology and fatherhood are two different things, and David had already shown me what kind of father he was. We divorced 6 months later. Quick and clean. He married Claire. They moved to Portland. He sees Maya twice a month. Scheduled visits with his lawyer's email reminders. He's present in name only, never in the ways that matter. And you know what? That's okay, because that night in the hospital, I learned something crucial. Family isn't about blood or marriage certificates. It's about showing up. It's about seeing someone's pain and choosing to help. Ruth showed up for me, a complete stranger who owed me nothing, and now I try to be Ruth for someone else. Last week I was at the grocery store when I heard it, that sound. A baby crying. Not fussy crying. Pain crying. I looked over. Young woman, maybe 22. She looked exhausted. Her baby was screaming. People were staring. I walked over without thinking. Excuse me, I said gently. I don't mean to intrude, but that cry sounds familiar. Has your baby been checked for a urinary tract infection? The woman's eyes widened. The doctor said colic. The doctor might be wrong, trust me. I've been exactly where you are. 10 minutes later, I was driving her to urgent care. Her baby had a UTI, caught early this time. No sepsis, no crisis, just help, exactly when it was needed. The woman cried and thanked me, asked how she could repay me. I smiled and said the words Ruth had taught me. You can't repay me, But someday, you'll see someone else who needs help, and you'll know exactly what to do. That's Ruth's legacy, not one rescue, but an endless chain of people choosing compassion. She died 2 years ago. Cancer. I found out from an obituary in the Seattle Times. By then it was too late to say goodbye. But I hope, she knew that her kindness didn't end with me, that it spread like ripples across water, touching lives she'd never meet. Maya is 4 now, healthy and happy. She doesn't remember that night, but I tell her the story sometimes, about the angel who appeared in a restaurant, who saw what no one else saw, who chose to care when caring was inconvenient. I want to be like her, Maya always says. Then you will be, I promise, just by trying. That's all any of us can do. Try, show up, throw the rope, one person at a time. One moment at a time, one life at a time. That's how we save each other. That's how Ruth saved me, and that's how I'll spend the rest of my life trying to save someone else. Because an angel once told me, when you see someone drowning, you throw them a rope. You just throw the rope, and that changes everything. Dear friends, what you just saw is only one part of the bigger picture. In the next video, I'll reveal the twist no one saw coming, so make sure you're here when it drops. I would love to know what you would have done in this situation. Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading every single comment. Thank you so much for watching. I love you so much, and don't forget to give this video a like, hit the subscribe button and share with someone who needs to hear it.